Welcome to the New Legend Podcast, man. We're excited to be here in the second headquarters of Freenote Cloth. We're here to celebrate vintage 4x4s, adventure, family, culture, and being a man in the 21st century. So I'm here with our co-host Luke.
Hello.
And our new friend and creator and founder of Freenote, Matt Brodrick.
Hello.
Yes. So super excited not only for this topic. This is in our segment of building a brand where we just explore entrepreneurship, people that are doing cool things. Like a common theme on the show is like we celebrate doers, like people that are actually pulling the trigger and starting cool things and doing cool things. And so love the Freenote brand and super excited to just talk about how you guys have built this and some of the ethos and vision behind what you're doing. And your brother, Andrew, co-founder, not here with us today. He's like somewhere cruising around.
Yep, visiting family in Florida.
Yeah.
Florida man.
We'll have to get him on the show too. That's actually, I've met Andrew first, so I'm excited to talk with you. Matt, before we get going, I'd like to thank Kenda Tire. Kenda Tire is like our kind of house brand of tire for our New Legend builds. They've been around since 1962, and it kind of was an entrepreneuring situation probably at the start.
For somebody.
But they're a big company, but they have a small vision forward attitude. And so we really love that. Check out the Kenda Cleaver. It's our favorite tire. We throw that tire props all the time because it's just so good. I don't know if you know like how much you know about tires, but like there's like in the off-road segment, there's like all-terrains and mud terrains. And mud terrains are like great for traction off-road and mud and stuff like that, but they're also like noisy on the street. So this new segment has kind of evolved called the rough terrain, which is like kind of right in between. So it's still quieter on the freeway, but great traction. So anyway, check those out. Okay, so we're celebrating the lives and vision of entrepreneurs, like what I think is the backbone of our community and our country, man. Like I know like there's a lot of hype and we always talk about Amazon and all these big giant corporations, but the heart and soul of our communities, man, are entrepreneurs and things that are starting. So why don't you just give us like just a quick overview of kind of what you guys, what is Freenote Cloth?
Well, it's a men's apparel brand. We started about 5 years ago. It's been something kind of always been in my head since I was maybe a teenager, wanting to do clothing at some level. Then it was actually a surf brand because that's what I love to do.
Really? Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
I then worked in the surf industry with my brother for about a decade. And then this started to come to be after I was like, you know what, I'm kind of wanted to take it to another level. Yeah. And source the finest ingredients, materials that we could find, and ended up being denim from Japan and the U.S. And 5 years later, we got almost A to Z, from bottoms to tops to jackets, outerwear.
And we're gonna I want to dig into a lot of what you just said, but first we always start the show. So a little introduction. And our favorite part, what was your first car of note?
First car of note?
Yeah.
It would have been my mom's Grand Cherokee.
Nice. So what year are we talking?
We're talking 1993.
Okay.
I think it was right when they changed the body model. It was like a little more, we called it the space shuttle because it was like white and kind of rounder than the kind of boxier.
That was post wood paneling?
That was yeah, actually they had a wood panel version of it.
Because 91 is like the last year of the Grand Wagoneer, like the Breckenridge station wagon, like so the Grand, and then you had the the XJs was like just the plain old Cherokees that I think they were still in production when the Grand Cherokees came out.
They were. Mm-hmm. And so I had basically gone for my dirt bike that I used to just take outside my house. We had a lot of property that was adjacent to us.
Where'd you grow up?
And just outside Orlando.
Okay.
Okay.
And I could just go home from school, rip out on my dirt bike. I can't do it anymore there because it's been all built out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But so then my next vehicle was the Cherokee, and I kind of thought that it was just a bigger version of a dirt bike. So we'd take it out of the same thing, same property. I would jump it. I'd take it. Probably things that you should not have been doing.
And your mom probably had no idea.
Well, it was, my father was somehow, I think it was a patient of his, owned the part of the dealership. I think it was like the service side. And they're like, hey, this is a new vehicle. come test it out.
Yeah.
Eventually we bought it, worked, I guess, 3 months or a month later after driving it around. And then I took it out on my first night after I got my driver's license, 16, go pick up my buddies, and basically rolled the thing onto a tree. So, yeah, that thing. Whoa. And it was my mom's car. It wasn't technically mine. But after I did that, she's like, we're going to fix it. I don't know, $6,000 later, not driving for a year, and then it was mine. So
cool. But that's like, so the next question that we talk about is like, kind of track back in your mind. What did that mean to get your license? What did driving kind of mean to you?
It was a freedom for me to get to the beach as often as possible, because we still lived probably about 40 minutes from New Smyrna Beach, which is where I grew up surfing. And that truck, I probably put over 150,000 miles going back and forth. Cool. And anyways, yeah, it rusted out. I mean, the thing, yeah.
So you had it for a while.
We had it for a while. It was the beach vehicle. It was great. It was 4-wheel drive. So in New Smyrna, you can actually drive on the beach.
Oh, cool.
So a lot of people would get stuck, and that thing would just go through anything. So
that's awesome. Because it's interesting, like, you have kids. I don't. If you're watching this on video, you might see Matt's kids kind of cruising around the back. And there's also some electrical work. We're in a real working shop, so and I love that. But they say like this generation of young people is the last generation that will have to get their license to like participate fully in society. So like that rite of passage. And I just think like we've talked to many people about this, and like that feeling of empowerment and independence and freedom. Like, what is going to be that for our kids? Like, is it going to be like, oh, they get to ride an Uber, or like just get to take public transit by themselves? Or I don't know. I'm wondering what is going to replace that rite of passage, and what will be the impact to that generation.
That's an expansive question there.
But it's just, and like I think as guys who grew up like that, like think of that freedom to go like, dude, I can go off on the beach right now. I can go. Let's go get some tacos. Let's go to the beach. Like,
I think I mean, I think there's always been something, you've always had those little things in your life. Like I can remember riding my bike and I'm like, okay, I can get, go further from my home.
Yeah.
And, I think there's always little stepping stones, and definitely the vehicle is a big one for me because it allowed me to get to the beach. That was, I guess, kids today, you got the Ubers and the Lyfts, and you kind of, you got mom and dad who carpool them everywhere too.
That's right.
So.
And it's interesting because, again, as a parent, my kids are older now, and I did this. Like, I had so much freedom. Like you, I grew up in rural Connecticut, and there was literally thousands of acres of just open woods that had trail systems, like whether they're deer trails or whatever. But I used to go, Mom, Dad, I'm taking my ATC 70 out as a 11, 12-year-old. Like your son back there's 11. At his age, going like, I'll just be back when it's dark. And they'd be like, okay, see you later. No cell phones, no nothing. And you just like show up. And like today we're so much more protective. Because think about, like, I think about, my wife grew up in the 80s and 90s up in the Bay Area. And you had like the East Area rapist, like the Zodiac killer, all these like serial killers. And somehow it was like this season of like serial killer like activity. So Heather's dad was always so paranoid of like, you see a van, run. You see, if anyone ever talks to you, run. So she was actually more helicopter parented because of that context. But it's just interesting, like as a parent, how do you think about that?
I think about it quite a bit, because where we where we live now, it's like you can you could probably jump from roof to roof, from the houses. But where I grew up, it was like you're on an acre, and there was all this other acreage around us that was just unused. And, we were building forts.
So fun.
Setting fires. Making jumps, But, I think I'm like, man, my kids, they go outside, they got their neighbors and stuff, and they go up and down the street, but it's not quite the same.
I know, it's interesting.
And the same thing with my wife. When she grew up, she says the same thing. She grew up probably about 6 hours north of, 4 hours from Bergen. Anyways, the middle of Norway.
Yeah.
And parents at the end of school, she'd go out, go play, go get in trouble. Where it's like now I'm like, my kids go like a couple streets too far, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of out of the it's
Yeah,
different.
it's just,
But
is it, or are just we different? I don't know. Like I really
think
wrestled through that.
I mean, I think the thing with today is like there's just so much information that's being shot at us.
Yeah.
Like about every serial killer
That's
and
true.
every
That's a good point.
rape.
That's a
You
really
hear
good point.
about it and you're like, well, they exist everywhere. Big
Right.
cities, small cities.
Right.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know how much of that is actually changing, or if it's just news and just
Well, news has got to
fear-mongering,
news has got to
looking for
gather up
something.
people and gather attention. So
My daughter right now, sorry, Lucas, she's 19, so she's a sophomore in college, and there's always like this time when like your kids just become adults, and it's an interesting, great transition. But she's like, Mom and Dad, she didn't ask. She's like, Mom and Dad, I'm going to Hawaii this summer for 7 weeks, and like going with my buddies, and we're gonna just like buy some tickets and then figure it out when we get there. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, no, you can't do that. Then I'm like, wait a minute. When I was 18, I just packed my bags and moved from Connecticut to California. I didn't really ask my parents. I just said like, hey, I'm moving. And they're like, okay, great. So yeah, that eternal question of like, you're right. That's a great point. Like, we're just way more informed. We kind of lived like as a kid growing up in like rural Orlando or Connecticut. It's like, you just kind of live in ignorance a little bit of like some of the bad things in the world. But,
I think though you can't be what they call the helicopter
Right.
parent. You can't leave them in a bubble. You got to give them that sense of adventure and a little risk so that
That's
they
right,
can
you have
understand,
to,
because that's what life is.
That's where you grow, is in those zones.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I was thinking like, gosh, I don't know. Hopefully he's not listening to this now, but we used to go down to Costa Rica when we were like, I don't know, 17 years old, 16 years old. You could rent a car, and we were just like, it was off-road everywhere there.
Yeah.
And was going from surf break to surf break. But you know what, we still managed to stay safe, and we did some crazy stuff, but it was also helped build our character.
That's right.
And who you end up being.
It's really important. So Luke, what was like, because you're younger than us.
When I grew up, I grew up in not a big city, but a city. So I didn't have those are motorcycles, ATCs running around. That's what I wish my childhood was. But it was just
Bicycles.
be home when the streetlights are on. If you're not home when the streetlights are on, you're in trouble for a week. So yeah, we'd rip around our bikes.
And no
just
cell
going to
phones,
friends.
right?
No
Like
cell
right.
phones, no. So you'd like occasionally call your parents from
On a
the mall.
payphone.
From a payphone.
Call collect and just say like,
I'm okay, I'll see you in a bit. But yeah. But it was, it's, I don't know.
good, man.
I don't know how you balance that as a parent.
Well, here's the thing, though, is, where we live, though, we live in Capistrano Beach, which is just outside San Juan Capistrano, where our business is. And we have access to some of the best surf breaks in the world.
Right.
And I didn't have that growing up. And Finn, my son, he's like, his next adventure is like, okay, Dad, when can I get a bike that I can put some surf racks on the side and ride down to this break? We'll see if that happens. But
that's good. That's a good point.
But
Because that may be like his kind of in a sort of a way, a rite of passage to go.
Sure.
Dude, you're on your own. Go to the beach. Be
or
safe.
when he gets his vehicle and he can drive himself to wherever that little spot is. But then on the other side too, it's like we did this about maybe a few months ago. We've been having an amazing year of snow here. And in like Southern California, the resorts have actually been open. It's been pretty good. And we got to go snowboard this one spot called Mount Baldy, and it was amazing.
Cool.
And that was only an hour and a half from the house.
That's right.
Just got up in the morning, drove out. I'm like, not many places that you can go and do the surf and turf. Like you go do surf in the morning or in the afternoon.
That is
That's
amazing
amazing about California.
I've done that once. It was kind of novelty, but I can check it off on the box. I don't need to do it again. But anyways.
Yeah, and there's also like interesting, what I appreciate about just taking your kids out. We talked earlier about you just expose, like kind of getting your kids out surfing and doing stuff is like there's real research on, particularly with young girls, on like young girls and boys on social media, where it's actually harmful to their just self-image and that kind of thing. And so I think the more we get our kids out, the more we get our kids experiencing nature and just cool old trucks and just things like that is so
absolutely
important.
Yeah, we were just last night, my wife's out of town on a little needed vacation, and we just went to Salt Creek, which is a beach about 5 minutes from our house. I'm just getting my daughter, she's 6 years old. I just got her, she's in her wetsuit now, and just getting her acclimated to the water. And just, I think it's important, don't ever put your back to the ocean. You just don't know what's behind you, and just learning those little things. And she's just getting more and more comfortable getting out there. But I think it's, those are fun activities for us, and they're also good things to know about, about the dangers and, how you should handle them.
That's good. Okay, so let's dig into the brand a little bit.
Sure.
So my introduction to Freenote, we have like a men's, I don't actually want to dig into that part of it too, but we have a men's kind of clothing store in Des Moines, Iowa called Fontanelle. And just let me back up because you'll maybe appreciate some of this. So like in 2000, probably like the year 2000, I moved to California in 1993, started taking road trips in California, and I remember driving north on Highway 5 we were going to Grants Pass, Oregon, where my grandparents lived, and drove past this monolith of a mountain, Mount Shasta. This is actually in the 90s, it had to be in the late 90s. But anyway, I'm like, I gotta climb that. I don't know, I've never really climbed before, but I just gotta do it. So it started this quest of like getting some buddies, getting a plan. We talked about this in a previous episode, like dream to dirt, going like, okay, we're gonna do this. No idea what we're doing. No internet back then, so I didn't really know how to search for stuff. But I started looking for gear, and I was like into like muscle cars and just off-roading, and I appreciated things made with quality and made locally in the U.S. because you hear about all this outsourcing and jobs and like the loss of manufacturing in America. So I'm like, I want good quality gear. And I remember like climbing gear is expensive. And there's more nuance to this as I've gotten to know some people in the industry. But I'm like looking at this jacket made in China that's $400. And I'm like, I don't want to pay $400 for a jacket made in China. No offense to China. But I'm like, I want to find some good. So it just started this quest to me to like find domestically made clothing and apparel. Fast forward a bunch of years, I'm in Des Moines. I see this cool company. I see Freenote stuff, and the guys start telling me the story about this denim and how it's sourced and how it's sewn. So, and I just really fell in love with your brand and started revamping my whole wardrobe, which was a really fun process. But so talk me through some of that. What was some of the vision behind? You talked about it briefly, but dig in a little bit to particularly two aspects. Why just men's clothing? Number one. Number two, why manufacture and source the things that you do and the designs that you guys come up with?
Sure. Okay. Well, why men's? Well, I don't have any business making, designing women's stuff. I don't know where to start.
That's good.
Maybe
That's
I have a couple ideas, but for me, it's always been like, I make stuff that I want to wear. So that's a really simple equation in my mind. Is this something that I would put on, go out, wear, not get, not too flashy, but just enough, just nice enough where you can tell there's quality. And that's why I always kind of stuck with menswear. Maybe we'll do a jacket down the line for women just because my wife's been begging for one.
Yeah.
But, menswear is where we're going to focus on for now, and who knows down the road. But I think too, for us, like the big mantra of our brand has just been down to quality.
Yep.
Making it here, one, I can see the sewers that make it. They're all made, like Los Angeles has a pretty good manufacturing. Well, I mean, it's shrunk quite a bit, but there are the machines here to make denim the right way. And there's experience.
Have you seen in the last, because it seems to me from an outsider's perspective that there's been a bit of a resurgence in like domestic manufacturing in textiles.
Absolutely. I think it's just, it's like how I call it like, the pendulum goes one way, fast fashion, disposable things that you can wear. They look great, but a couple washes later, they're disintegrating. And they're affordable, which is nice. But, I think once people started digging, they're like, well, okay, so it's affordable. How is this really being made? And And I think people just started to like, okay, well, let's go the other way. Let's buy things nicer that I can wear longer, and has higher quality, and people started to appreciate that. And I think too, it's just like, just the availability of information now with, with the internet and social media, and people really love to dig into brands and find out how it's getting made or what's going on with it. And I think actually Freenote could do a better job of it, because we do some pretty amazing things that we keep
Meaning
quiet.
just telling your story.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like from the start to finish of getting a garment from design to market. It's just, there's a lot of steps that go in there, and we stress out about all these little details of like, okay, is the sewing right, stitches per inch, or is this enough, are the pockets straight, just some of the basics. But there's a lot of work that goes into this stuff, and I like to see some, when people come in, they're like, whoa, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
That attention to detail. They noticed it. And I was like, wow, you really noticed that? Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But, for us, I guess too, the other thing is just like, it's, the formula for the design is, like I said, one, it's like, would it be something I would wear?
Yep.
Can I build a little utility into it if it needs it, or take some design from some utility? So it's not just like pockets for no reason. And then the last thing is like sourcing just the nicest stuff that I can find. And
and I want to dig into that, like that uncompromising quality. That's something that we try to practice as a brand. But also one thing I appreciate is a lot of like men that I found myself, I put myself in this category. My wife is always, she's awesome. And she's like, she's a snappy dress. I don't even think you use that for women.
Snazzy?
But she's just like, she's good fashion sense. And she'd always be like, oh, no, don't wear that. Don't wear that. So I'm like, change my clothes. Like, there's too many shades of green. But a lot of men need help with fashion. And so that's what was so cool about even Andrew. Like my interactions with Andrew's is really fun. Like when I've come in the store and just hung out with him. Actually, just let me tell you that funny story. So we were in Southern California, my son and I. He appreciates the fashions. He loves your brand.
I met him. Yes, he's been to our headquarters.
Yeah. So when we met you guys there, I just called this phone number because like the San Juan Cap store, it's not quite a storefront, right? A little bit.
No, it's like we store some of our product there. We do. It's our headquarters. We have like a little showroom.
Yeah. It's a rad place.
We're always welcoming when people come down.
I love that.
It's like I love to like, here's kind of behind the curtains. Like we got a couple sewing machines, which I call kind of like our laboratory, and but I love showing people the product and what's coming out. But yes.
That's what just did it for me. Like, so I'm like this random dad from Iowa, and like Andrew's like, yeah, dude, come on down, like for sure. And then he's like, I'm like, I can't find it. He's like, yo, I'm right. He ran out in the parking lot, met me, and then you guys were just so hospitable, so cool. Because your stuff, like, let's be honest, Freenote is like quality. It's not inexpensive, right? And so a lot of times when you get that, there's like just an air of snootiness or an air of like exclusiveness. But you guys just didn't have that at all. It was just like, what's up? Like, and then Andrew's like so fun. 'Cause he's just like, good. He's a good salesman.
Yeah, he has that quality.
He's like, dude, these pants are perfect. Try these pants. Try these. And he gives me this. I have this pile of clothes in my, and not that I asked for it.
He's got the moves.
And then I'm just like, okay. He's like, try it on. But as a guy who didn't necessarily have I've always appreciated quality and like tried it. Like I worked at the Gap in high school, and so I always thought about clothing and how I look, but having someone help you, and especially cool guys, you go like, I like the way they look. I just think a lot of guys need that help, and especially outside of California, maybe Southern California. So I appreciate what you guys do.
And for me, it's just been in the past, because I fall victim to the like, I'm going to buy $12 pair of shoes at Walmart, but I'll just get 20 of them a year and run through them. And I'm just recently busting out of that and going, no, it's better to just buy a good pair of leather boots. But in the past, all my clothes have been sort of ill-fitting because I just buy cheap clothes. And so actually, once we've started connecting with you guys and I'm getting decent clothes, it's like, oh, this fits right, and this is going to last. Like, I get it now.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time fitting, refitting, making sure the patterns are correct. I mean, heck, it's taken us, let's see, I'd say 4 years into the brand where I was like, I'm happy with the selection of denim fits that we have. They've all been tuned up. I thought I'd have that in year one, and it wasn't even close.
Yeah, isn't that funny? You always think like, I will just dial this, but
yeah, and you're like, oh, you assume everybody has your same body type. It's not the case.
So did you guys, one thing I'm always curious about is when did kind of the dream start and you started sort of prototyping and messing with stuff to when you had a product to sell?
Yeah, okay. So basically my background, well, I'd said before, like I always wanted to be I wanted to have my own brand at some point. But then I just didn't really, my parents were kind of pushing me more into the business world so I got a business degree.
Yep.
Master's in business, went and I worked for actually this eyewear brand, Electric, that my brother and I both worked for 10 years. In the first 5 years, I was spent in the accounting department and running the finances, and we went through an acquisition.
How did you do in that world? It seems like I don't see you
I
as like
worked
a corporate
really
guy.
hard to do what I had to do. Like it took me a lot longer. There's people way smarter, more efficient that just get it. But I worked hard. I was like, I think in anything that you do, it's like if you put the time and the effort in it and you care about it, you can do it.
Are you finding a lot of those skills kind of help?
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, part of my day is designing. The other part's like entering an invoice in or checking our books. And, it's giving me a great background of information. So, we can make hopefully better decisions. But yeah, so I did that for the first 5 years. The company was then acquired by Volcom, which is a bigger brand, and they concentrate primarily on clothing, where Electric was an accessory brand. And I had the opportunity. Well, actually, I was going to get a new boss, which I was very excited about because I was kind of running the finances.
Right. Yep.
And they're like, well, if you want, we sold the company on kind of the idea that we can expand and sell the logo as well in apparel. So I went up to Volcom, got trained there for about a year and a half. And then I managed an amazing design team for about 5 years.
Okay.
And in that process, of course, I'm coming from spreadsheet guy to always having I always liked, wearing nicer stuff or, I had an interest in it. And so I basically spent that 5 years watching how my guys or my team, how they designed the product. And probably about 2 years before I started Freenote, I was like, okay, you know what?
And real quick, dude, was this in Florida or out here?
This was in California.
California, okay.
Yeah. So again, just building off, the team that I had, I kind of would get up early in the morning at 5 o'clock before work, teach myself Illustrator, which is usually the kind of the choice thing for designing. It's software. So I just taught myself and just kept getting, decent. I'm no master of it, but I worked hard. And then the other thing I would do is I spent those years really researching, I'd go to old thrift stores, or I'd go to swap meets, or I would go dig in these big piles, mounds of clothing, not knowing exactly what I was looking for, but, building kind of an archive in my head of pocket design or
And at this time, Matt, so you were 15 years into like a corporate.
No, I 5 years.
Okay.
5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was hired right out of business school.
Okay.
Right when
So
I
how old are you when you start learning these new skills, and kind of what phase of life are you at?
Okay. So I started at Electric at 25. So 30 was when I took over the design team.
Yep.
And then those 5 years was when I was really buying old books, just, creating, I guess, a library in my head of design.
Because that's such a key thing we talk about because so many people, they just get it, they go to college or not, or just get a set of skills, and then they kind of rest on those skills for the rest of their days. But that idea of being a voracious learner and just digging in your 30s to go, no, I'm not content with what I'm doing. I want to do more. I want to do something cool, even if you don't totally have the end goal in mind, but just to start teaching yourself new skills, that hunger is something that is I want to see more people have that hunger and thirst to learn.
I think that's what makes me happy.
Yeah.
I mean, even like now, like every day I'm thinking of like, okay, should I design it this way or what? But then I'm also like, all right, well, what's going to be the next chapter? Will it be, I've always loved, vehicles, and I'd love to like, have my own garage with like, be able to tinker around with stuff. And I've always loved building things, creating something. I'll say one thing with my career is that it's a very satisfying, like when you're like, okay, you put something on paper, you design it, you then see the end product. It's like, it's like a Christmas gift every time. I'm like, okay, I see it, and I'm like, whoa, like this is really cool.
Isn't that cool?
Doesn't always work out. There's a lot of bad stuff that happens, but man, when you get it right, you're like, whoa, wow, you're it's surprising.
This is like, and what I'm digging into is like, so we've heard of, I don't know, I don't want to get too into controversial things, but like a lot of men just don't think that they have those kind of, I think a lot of them have drive to do these kind of things, but a lot of them just settle into, especially when you're a dad, you just kind of settle into like, stop taking adventures, stop like, because I think for you and me, it sounds very simple. Like I love going to work and going like, how do we solve the next problem? How do we get the next thing? And I feel like when you're the best version of you, like solving those problems into that stuff. Because I have to imagine if you you'd probably innovate and do cool things, but if you stayed in the corporate world, there'd be a piece of you that would not be fully expressed, and that would affect like the way you're a dad, the way you're a husband, all those different aspects of your life around just confidence, competence, all those kind of things.
Yeah, I'd say too, like my background in the corporate world is, well, first of all, I got the first 5 years I was in a startup company, and that was with electric.
Yeah.
And that was an amazing experience.
That is fun, yeah.
And we had a team of people that I worked with that were phenomenal. Really hard to probably recreate that. And then we got acquired, and it was like, okay, well, now we're in a bigger team, and that team had to report to Wall Street. And, it's just, but I also learned a lot, like, hey, this is how the big boys do it.
That is good.
So, I just got a nice taste of both, which I was like, wait a second, this is like actually grooming me to do what I'm doing now. So
that's
I couldn't
cool.
be happier or more thankful for all the stuff that I learned then, and the good, the bad, and it's kind of morphed and, made me who I am. And I'm still friends with the owners of the old company or previous owners. And they come in, they shop, they buy, still support me, and
that's cool.
We love shooting the shit.
Yeah.
And that was a tremendous experience, and I wouldn't take any of it away.
That's
and
cool.
But back to the learning thing, I was like, you know what? I was just hungry. Like, they gave me a lot of space to do my own thing, but also it got them. The other higher ups were like, wait, this guy's going a little too far with how big he wants to make this line, or or how far he wants to go. And I was like, wait, what? Like, you would stop that? But I get it. Now it's like, and then I realized, I was like, okay, probably a year before I was actually let go, I was planning this. I was like, hey, something's going to happen eventually. And
so you and Andrew were like, yo, let's kind of just do this?
Yeah, we were probably a few weeks away from actually just see you later. And they beat us to the punch. And we high-fived them on the way out. And I was up in LA working the next day.
Cool,
so
man.
It was a great transition. I was lucky. And, there's probably a little hard feelings for a little bit, but I think all in the end, we're all kind of came back together.
And that, like, we were talking to Nathan Anderson at Walter Sky, and he was talking about this chance. He's trying to build this brand, trying to figure it out. He couldn't solve this technical fabric issue. Like, I need this thing that does this. And he's like, his neighbor comes out and it's like, oh, you're trying to do that? Oh, I know this guy. Like, meet this guy. So and then he said at that point in his journey, he was about to give up.
Right on the edge.
He was like a year and a half in, like getting kind of nowhere, just like, I'm going to give up and just go get a regular job. Did you have any moments like that where you were just like, I don't know?
Yeah, no, I mean, geez, there's a lot of mornings I wake up and I'm like, or actually nights that I'm like, whoa, like this is pretty tough.
Yeah.
Is this going to be the last line that I ever get to design? Is this it? And, somehow we managed to, get through those times and, but I still, like you said earlier, is like, I'm excited to go to work. Like I get up, I love the challenges. I mean, geez, don't get in this business if you like things working out the right way every time, because you have to be ready to pivot. And you got to pivot every day, and you got to get creative on how you're going to fix that issue, because there's always a problem. I mean, there's humans make our stuff.
And no one's going to, like, it's, as an entrepreneur, like, it lives or dies with you. Like, you and your bro, like, if you make the wrong decision, right? Yeah.
Checking in, checking out, consistent.
And I love that.
There's no checking out.
Right.
Like, weekends we work.
Right.
The only thing that really bums me out is it takes away time from the kids, but hopefully they'll understand at some point, like, I'm building this eventually for them, like, this is.
And what do we because what's happening with me, my kids, again, my youngest son is 13, 17. Well, then I have a 17-year-old daughter, a 19-year-old daughter, and a 22-year-old son. And my two daughters and my son are now, like, a part of the business. Like, my daughter kind of works in our shipping and receiving department. My other daughter runs our social media. My son is learning skills. Like, he learned how to weld last summer. Like, I'm just kind of methodically working him through in a fun way, like, trying not to burn him out. But so it'll be fun to see your kids.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's an idea, and I'm sure you will, just like, and start to integrate them into what you're doing.
I try to include them where it makes sense. But yeah, at some point, if it's something that interests them, it's here.
It's awesome.
This is what we're building.
That's cool. Luke, I remember when you graduated college, you got a job, and I remember you saying, like, just you're doing CAD work, kind of a small cog in a big machine, and going like,
yeah. So I just immediately went and got an engineering job in a bigger city, kind of next door to us, and it was just grinding. Like, I just didn't have that fire to go to work. I mean, it was technically what I was trained to do and all this stuff and making good money. And then I'd kind of been talking with Sean, and it was just like, I'm going to make a lot of sacrifices, but I'm going to enjoy.
It was a big risk.
Enjoy the majority of my day when I'm at work and doing stuff, and it's just
It's part of that startup. I mean, for Luke, it was like coming in, because you came in 5 years ago. We were not the same brand that we are now, financially, everything, and so you made a big sacrifice to be a part of building something.
And
cool.
Part of it is, like, I mean, we're working nights and weekends on stuff, but also if in the middle of the day, if I need to go do something, you're given other freedoms as you take on those other responsibilities. So
I try to, like, I coached the soccer team for my son until he got too good for, like, my coaching, and now he's on some other level, and now Emma's my new project for soccer. And but yeah, there is that flexibility where I'm like, hey, if there's a good snowstorm hitting out, we're out of here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Because the work's always going to be there. It's definitely there are deadlines at certain points, but it's like, the beauty of what I do is, like, I can work late. It
really becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah, and I don't mind doing it.
That's right. And I've heard this saying, like, no one ever said on their deathbed, like, I wish I worked more. But creating stuff, being a part, having a responsibility, and giving other people jobs, like creating jobs for people, like, that's a really
when you can make
cool
your work
thing.
Your hobby, and it's all the same, and you're like, it's sort of like, am I working right now, or am I just doing what I enjoy?
That's the best combination when that happens.
Yeah.
But dude, it's highs and lows. Like, I remember times when I'm just like, my wife does our books, and it's like, how are we going to make payroll? Like, we don't have enough money. And just that stress. So there's these super high highs where I do every morning pretty much. I'm excited to go to work, solve today's problem, solve 5 years down the road. But there's also those days where it's like, this is terrible. Like, something bad happens.
Just go get a corporate job where dude,
I've probably had in 15 years of business, I've probably had 3 or 4 seasons where I'm like, I'm not thinking about it, I'm looking for jobs. I can't do this anymore. Because I got to provide for my family. I got to do all this stuff. And I just, I don't want to be a failure. And so that's the thing. Like, people see entrepreneurs and they go like, oh, I love that. Like, the glamour of, like, the Instagram shots and, like, the freedom of the things we're talking about. But there's also a lot of responsibility and kind of burden to it.
There's a whole nother side of it.
That's right.
Gray hairs coming in early.
That's right.
So, it's just takes a lot of hard work. I mean, I don't know any way around it.
No, that's good. I love that philosophy. Like Nathan Anderson said, like, just keep digging till you come out the other side.
Chopping wood. Keep chopping.
So one other thing I appreciate about Freenote is your distribution model. A lot of companies, to kind of cut out the middleman. I'm not, like, super versed in that, but you guys have a distribution. Is that what you call it, a distribution model? That
Sure. Our sales channel.
Yes. So talk about why you decided, what you do and why you decided to do it.
Well, our product, it's expensive. Somebody, I think, needs to sit there, explain it to you, just give you some reasons why you're paying for that, or why you're paying that much money for it.
While you're investing in it.
While you're investing. Okay, there you go. That sounds better. While you're investing in it, but it's we rely on our retailers to tell that story. Mm-hmm. So we try to support them as much as humanly possible, give them the, all the information, background information on the garments. And, so
is that part of like an orientation when you pick?
I mean, they get to a point where they understand, what's going on with it. But, I mean, definitely you have to communicate that stuff. It's
for sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that is why you're investing that extra couple dollars into it.
Right.
So we have, we do sell online, but our focus still is our retailer, because that's a person that's actually putting the garment on. You can't just go and look at a picture online, or you can, some people, but I think you need to go touch and feel the quality. Look at, I think a lot of the design details are kind of hidden until you actually try the piece on, or the fit of it. I think you got to go. It's a touch and feel thing. You got to go. You got to go check it out.
And I know, and I encourage anyone listening to this that's interested in good quality stuff, go look at Freenote's website. You guys have a great list of all your distributors and stores. And then go check it, because it's different. There's a distinct difference when you, this is my theory, and for me, when I put it on, that I feel like this, in touch with this quality product that I don't know. I just like the feeling of it.
If we do that, then we're, that's a success for me.
Yeah.
If you put it on, you feel confident, feel good about what you're wearing, then that'll help, that'll flow into other things that you're doing.
I agree.
The day. So,
I really do.
I think if you kind of, I guess it depends on your personality. But for me, I like putting on the stuff. It makes me feel good about myself, or helps. And it, I think it like I said, it flows into other activities that you're doing.
That's right. I talk about this too I've had debates with guys about a clean car. I don't care what kind of car. It could be the jankiest Toyota Tercel in the world.
Whoa.
Or,
easy.
Yeah. Luke has an 87 Toyota Tercel wagon.
But it's clean.
It is clean.
Looks
but
good,
there's something about
good.
when you get in that car, if you got garbage all over your car, you're not going to go change the world if you can't take care of yourself first. And so, But
there is something about putting on clothes that gives you kind of confidence. I don't know if that's,
you're not rolling out of bed
but
in your sweat.
There is something about it that you're just I'm feeling good.
This is how I'm going to present myself to the world for today.
Yeah,
that's right.
If I'm staying in my house, then I guess I'm wearing my pajamas, and but if I'm going out, then you should look good. If that matters to you.
So talk about the difference. Is there a difference between running a business and building a brand?
I'd say, wow.
It's kind of a weird question. I know it's an interesting question.
Well, I think you can get to a level where you've built your business, and it may be time for maybe the number crunchers could probably take it to the next level, because I think that you see that a lot of transitions. There's some people that are savvy enough from start to finish. They can take it from starting in the garage to a $1 billion brand. But running, building, obviously you got to be creative. You can't accept no for an answer. But I guess you got to do that and running a business too. So that's kind of the.
But what's interesting is a brand evokes to me a sense of connection, a sense of emotion. For example, if you go to Target and buy clothes, you're not, in my opinion, you're just seeing that shirt looks good. You're not associating oh, it's Massimo, I can't wait to put that on. I don't know, but when you a brand like Freenote, there's this whole story and community connected to it that I feel that's the difference between just a product and a brand. And maybe that's a better way to phrase the question.
Maybe I was kind of thinking of it a little bit different way.
I asked the question in a weird way.
We're very, we're hands-on with this thing. These are our little babies. Every little piece that we make, it's there's, like I was saying before, there's a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of hands that touch it too. So it's we got to depend on whether it's our sewers or the cutter or the people finishing it. Mm-hmm. And then people making, all of the fabrics and everything, all this stuff has to work.
Yeah.
And, we spend a lot of time focusing on it and, putting our hearts and soul into it. And I think people feel that, hopefully, when they pick up our stuff. They're like, you know what, this isn't the run-of-the-mill thing that I can get anywhere else. Somebody's actually thought maybe a little more about this pocket shape or design, or they picked maybe a fabric that you might not see necessarily in a jacket silhouette like this. That's...
Do you guys, do you think, so we'll just get into your head a little bit on designing. Do you go design first, fabric first, and then price? Or do you go like, no, we have to make it at this price point, and therefore...
Never starts with price.
I love that about you guys.
It never... and that's, I came from a world that did. It's like, hey, we got to hit a price point like this, which I totally understand because it made it affordable for a segment.
Be the majority of most clothes and products.
Yeah, that's why we're
price point.
That's probably why we're not a big massive brand, because it's like we're very boutique, and there's a segment of the population that appreciates that, and the price. I wish I could make it more affordable, but this is me putting in the best ingredients that I can.
Can't, right.
There's no way around it.
Yeah.
Same with our trucks. Like, we just can't. You can't. The days back in the day when I was going like, if I don't price it cheap, then we won't get the job. They'll go somewhere else. And then I would say, yeah, we'll do, this is like 10 years ago. I'll do a full nut and bolt restoration for $35,000. Not really knowing, because I was learning business, but knowing now, I know now that we were losing money, but it was just it was cash flowing, but I was losing money. And then what happened is, like, we start being in these positions where, like, I just can't do this. You're forced to cut corners, and that just ate me up inside, and going like, no, we have to just charge more, and it's better for the customer to pay more because they're getting the quality that they deserve, and the quality that they don't even know that they deserve, maybe, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, the design concept from before was like, you got to hit a price point.
Yeah.
Which then started meaning you had to remove some of the great things that you put in the design. Yeah. Maybe the zipper's got to be a little cheaper, or you don't have a zipper there or a pocket there. Where this is like, you're asking, does it start with the design or the fabrics? It varies. I don't know. Sometimes I see a fabric, I'm like, oh, that would look really cool in something like this, and then the design comes from that. And then there's other times I've designed a jacket or a shirt, and I don't know what to put in it yet.
Right.
And then I find the fabric, I'm like, oh, boom, there it is.
Is it still between
And then even that could be wrong.
Yeah.
And then a couple seasons later, I figure it out. And I'm like, actually, that's the right way to do it.
Right.
Yeah. All progression. But is it still you and your brother doing all the design work? And
so I'm doing all the design work. That's my primary focus for the brand. Andrew keeps the wheels turning. He works on the production, which is part of design. There's a lot of changes that got to happen, like what my reality is and what the reality is of what can be made is different. So, he plays a hand in that. And, I think we got a pretty good, I'm a little more behind the scenes kind of guy. He's more in front, with the sales, and, we have a good relationship to do it. So,
yeah. What's that like, just real quick, what is it like working with your brother?
We've been doing it for, I think actually we've always been doing it. Shoot, we were let's just say unplanned. My parents had us late. I think my mom was in her 40s.
Wow.
Which would have been, back then I think was like pretty, that was old then.
And what's the age gap between you and your brother?
4 years.
Okay.
So we got stuck in the extra room in the house in bunk beds, so we were kind of forced to live together.
Yeah, I love that.
We went to the same schools together. I actually got shipped off to boarding school for 2 years, but then we went to college together, same school. And I moved out to California. He was like maybe a few weeks behind me, and he ended up working at the same job as me. And so we've been doing everything pretty much together. And it's, it's like anything. We have, like I said, we have different personalities, but we're family. So when it comes down to it, we're going to make the right decision. But sometimes the way I see it isn't the way he sees it.
Right.
And I think that's actually healthy in a business when everybody's like, oh yeah, we're doing it the right way.
Right.
You know, pretty soon your blinders are on and
have you guys
like,
had to put up like mechanisms to resolve conflict?
Sure. You just, you know what? Honestly, the biggest mechanism for it is just talking on the phone, communicating.
Just talking.
Don't go rogue.
Yeah.
Don't go silent and then surface with some, you know.
Right.
And I think that's the best
cool,
thing.
man. That's really cool.
You just got to be talking to each other.
Because in business, like even Luke and I, 5 years, our desks are near each other. We travel a lot together. I mean, you can get on each other's nerves or like just grow really close and the bonds are strong. I mean, it's an interesting thing being with particularly your brother for your whole life of like connecting together. And it's a really neat story, I think. Don't see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we, you know, through thick and thin, we've had people in the company, out of the company.
Yes.
We're still here. We're not going anywhere.
Yep.
And
I love that.
You know, as long as things keep going forward, which they have been, we're going to keep doing it.
It's great. Okay, one last question, then we'll get ready to wrap it up. So we talk a lot about education, and I'm kind of an alternative education guy. I think competency is a lot greater assessment of your knowledge and skill than a piece of paper. But so you've had both. You've had the school of kind of hard knocks of entrepreneurship, where you've had a lot of things to learn, but you've also had the benefit of like having a business degree.
Yes.
So kind of talk about not better or worse, but like do you feel like you could have done Freenote without that?
Maybe, but not the way that we've done it.
Yeah. So it
would have been different.
Good.
You know, I think having a degree, and if you have a degree and you just went through the motions, who cares? But if you have a degree and you actually cared about what you were learning, which actually I didn't at the time, but then I learned later that I should have. Once you have, more purpose in what you're learning, it's like, geez, you're just a sponge. You're like, I need more. Like,
yeah.
Gosh, I don't know where I was going with that one.
But it is interesting because I feel like I look at a guy like you and your brother and go, even if you didn't go to college, you'd still be doing something really cool. So there's just, I think it's like athletes. Like you have people who are really gifted athletically, and you have people that are really hard workers. And the elite athletes, the pros, are like the ones that have both.
Yeah.
They're athletically gifted and they're hard workers. And Luke and I coach my daughter's soccer teams. Luke has helped me coach. He's a really good soccer player. And we've seen girls that are like, some girls, man, they are athletically challenged, but they try so hard. They got drive. And then you have girls that are just really talented, like super fast, just quick, nimble, but they don't care. And then you have the girls kind of like people in the middle. But so I think maybe education and entrepreneurship, that is the same. Because I didn't have a business degree. I didn't know. Now I think it's hurt me and slowed down our progress because I didn't know what I was doing. And I've learned just by talking to people like you. And
yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely helped me with having the master's in business. Just being able to navigate an income statement, balance sheet, cash flow. I'm even a little bit weird on that one, but anyways, yeah, no, it's definitely given me a good foundation.
That's
and then
a good point.
It's like anything though. It's like, what you learn on the job, it's through experience, and then you really see trial and error, how things, the results of it, and you got to have both.
Yeah,
you can't be in some laboratory somewhere and think you're going to pop out of it like you got all the answers.
Yeah, and I'm sure it varies depending on the degree. I know for me, I've probably forgotten 90% of what I learned in school, but the thing that I took away was like kind of how to problem solve, how to learn those things again. When I get in that spot, I know how to get out of it and how to. Because
it'll be interesting, like when old Finn here, he's gonna maybe someday go, "Yo, pops, I want to start a surf brand, or I want to start this lifestyle brand, or whatever." And do you say like, "Okay, you're gonna wait 4 years, you're gonna go get your degree first, or just like, or let's do it. I'll invest in you. I'll like apprenticeship, mentorship, internships, like." We'll get it done some other way. And I'm not saying there's a right answer, but
yeah, no, I think forcing anything, forcing somebody to go to school, force them not to go to school. I think that's, I think I've learned, later in life that I'm like, you know what, the best and the right things happen as they kind of flow together.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
not to say that you don't need to force things and be aggressive here and there,
right.
but for the most part, when you're just overly try too hard for certain things, they tend to not work out because they probably weren't right.
That's right.
That wasn't the right path.
Especially for other people. Like as your kids grow into adults and they go,
Hard to make decisions for other people.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And last question. This is a great conversation, but last question. What does it mean to you, Matt, to be a man, 21st century?
Gosh, that's a big one.
Hitting them
Jeez.
hard.
To be a man,
Yeah.
well, I think it's one is to, if you have a family,
Yeah.
take care of your family, protect them. If you have kids, make sure you nurture them and show them, introduce them to the world in the right way. And then other than that, just be a moral person and don't do things that, I think a lot of people kind of operate in the business world like, hey, it's cutthroat, do whatever, without any consequence. And I honestly think it's like, you pave a path like that, things are going to come back and bite you later.
sure, dude.
I think you got to be fair. And let's face it, a business relationship is on, both parties benefiting out of it.
That's right.
And when it's one-sided, eventually, or lopsided, that'll come back. That'll bite you someday.
I love that answer. I think, So anyway,
When we were just talking about that, it's weird that you like just the morality in business.
Yes.
And that doesn't have to be there, but that it's.
yeah, and we had a good conversation with a friend, and we had gotten this topic of like, do you legislate morality in business? And it's like you can't because like
how
so
do you
like
do that?
do you
What
say
does
like
that look
CEOs can only make this much, you can only make this much, and then like you can't fix it that way.
No, I think it's something that you bring up from the beginning culturally, and that thing should flow up. I don't think you need to have rules telling you unless it's really people can't figure it out.
Right,
But,
illegal activity.
Yeah, I think it's just how you being a man and teaching your children like this is the right way and this is the wrong way.
That's right, dude. That's exactly what I was going to say. That's where it starts, man. It starts with dads and moms teaching their kids like the way to grow up, like to pass on your values, your hustle to your kids, and then guess what? We don't need legislation to force that on us. We can
Principles instead of rules.
That's right, Luke. Good point. Well, man, Matt, thank you, dude. What a great conversation. And so I deeply encourage you out there. I know our audience is like 90% men. And so for those of you men out there that want to wear some quality stuff and take your look to the next level, surprise those people in your lives, go check out Freenote, man. Super cool people. Easy to find you online.
Yep.
Instagram, whatever. But go into a local shop, man, and check them out. And for those 10% of you women out there that follow us, I don't know if it's more or less, but take your guy or whatever into Freenote.
That's right.
They
got the
thing.
influence. So
Anyway, thanks, Matt. Thanks a lot for having us.
Thanks for having me.
man.
Thanks for listening to me.
Andrew, if you listen to this, thank you for help setting this up too and for being cool. And we'll talk to you next time.